Beside me is the Hennessey Venom F5. It's a hypercar with a 6.6 litre twin turbocharged V8 producing 1,817 horsepower. And you know what? That is probably the least impressive thing about it. Okay, maybe not the least impressive thing, but there is so much more to this car. Yep, it's another stupidly powerful hypercar and it costs $2.4 million plus taxes. Who cares, right? Well, hold on a minute. I felt the same, but the philosophy behind this car is more complex. John Hennessey references the timeless appeal of the McLaren F1 when he talks F5 and repeats Lotus's mantra about adding lightness. So let's give it a chance. The numbers are amazing. And on E85 fuel, that engine, appropriately named the Fury, produces over 1,800 horsepower. And thanks to a rigorous dedication to low mass and its bespoke carbon tub, this thing weighs just 2,998 pounds. For some perspective, that's less than a Porsche Cayman GT4, considerably less. And I've got some more perspective, and I've actually written these numbers down because they're sort of unbelievable. So you remember the old Ferrari F40, the baddest Ferrari ever. That thing had 437 horsepower per ton. Chiron moved the game on, 753 horsepower per ton. Hennessey Venom F5, 1,298 horsepower per ton. This thing, forget next level, this is like next universe. So let's say you're one of the 24 F5 owners. What will you experience? Well, Hennessey claimed 0 to 62 miles an hour in 2.6 seconds, 0 to 124 in 4.7, and 0 to 186 miles an hour in 8.4 seconds. Top speed, somewhere north of 310 miles an hour. We'll find out in a few months. And let's not forget that this car's predecessor, the Venom GT, became the fastest car in the world back in 2014 when it hit 270.49 miles an hour. Despite the crazy numbers, and they are going to grab all the headlines, Hennessey's actually keen to talk about dynamics, about whole vehicle performance. So this thing is bespoke from the ground up, and it cares about all the really important stuff. The carbon tub is made here in the UK, incredibly stiff, and it weighs just 189 pounds. It supports aluminium subframes front and rear, there's double wishbone suspension all round, and manually adjustable Penske dampers. So there's going to be a lot of adjustment in this car. Of course, it's got carbon ceramic brakes by Brembo. Surprised it hasn't got a parachute, to be honest, seeing as it's going to do over 300 miles an hour. Cup 2 tyres by Michelin. Everyone has to have Cup 2 tyres by Michelin, but these ones are actually going to be tested on their aeroplane rig just to spin them up fast enough to ensure safety at over 300 miles an hour. They want this car to work everywhere, road, track, runway, and they want it to be manageable. They talk a lot about driver engagement, not just performance. That will be no easy task. However, the chassis development is being shaped by John Hennessey, the legendary engineer behind some of GM's best ever cars and 11-time SCCA championship winner in Corvettes. They call him Hein Rocket for a reason, and he adds yet another layer of credibility to the F5. For me, the biggest surprise about the F5 is that its presence comes from how simple it is, almost elegant really. There will be a high downforce kit available for customers who want to use them on racetracks, but right now you can tell the focus is on high-speed stability, but also being really, really slippery, so they can do over 300 miles an hour. Now that minimalism, that focus is so evident in the interior. It's hard to use any benchmarks on a car like this, isn't it? Because it's just trying to do stuff that no other car's ever done. But when you get in the car, it does remind me of a few things. Firstly, LaFerrari, the way the door comes up and the tub is way inside the width of the body. I love that. And also Ford GT, it's got that same intimate feel. You're super close to the passenger. They wanted it to have that cockpit feel. So everything's on the steering wheel. It's really lovely, actually. Right here is where you change the modes. Now, there are 5 modes. Wet, I would say park it in the garage if it's wet. Sport, drag, track, and then F5 VMAX, which is where you get all the power. Everything is carbon, gloss carbon or satin carbon. There is one question mark about this car. I've been really impressed with the attention to detail, how beautifully it's finished. The numbers blow my mind, but this gearbox, it has a 7-speed Cima single clutch automated manual effectively. It's been re-engineered to deal with the sheer forces that are going to go through it. But I've yet to drive a car with that gearbox that feels absolutely perfect. I would love this thing to have a manual gearbox. Maybe one day that will happen. But right now we've got the Cima box. That's the one thing that would concern me a little bit. One day someone is going to sit in this car, hold this wheel at the Space Shuttle landing facility in Florida and attempt to do over 300 miles an hour. And what's really cool, the runway is 3.2 miles long. So they're attempting to effectively beat the Chiron SS 300 Plus in less than half of the space. I wouldn't want to be the guy who does it just because a tyre failure at 300 sounds scary, but I want to be there when this thing does over 300 miles an hour. And I just don't doubt that it will. How could it not? This is the heart of the beast, the Fury, and it is a monster. 6.6 litres, twin turbo. And although this is a new start for Hennessey, everything they've learnt and absorbed has coalesced into this monster engine. 1,817 horsepower, we've said that a lot. Here's another one. 1,192 foot-pounds of torque. Peak torque is at 5,000 RPM, but it probably produces more torque than, I don't know, let's think of a car, a 765 LT at idle. Power is not going to be an issue, and you can see why. There's 2 turbos. They're literally as big as my head. Precision turbos. This is just a supersized engine. Heat management is a huge issue. The exhaust system, all of the underside of the bodywork here, which is all carbon fiber, of course, is coated in Cerakote. Now, if you know about guns, you'll know that that's what they use to coat the inside of a barrel of a gun or the whole of a gun now. I don't really know what else to say about this motor. I'm sort of speechless. The numbers speak for themselves and the detailing in here is really, really cool. If anything is going to power a car to way over 300 miles an hour in just 3.2 miles of runway, this is it, the Fury. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that this motor revs to 8,500 RPM. Can you imagine the noise when they pull the pin? It's pretty easy to be cynical about another hypercar that costs more than 5 houses and is going to do 300 plus miles an hour, isn't it? But I have really been surprised not only with the attention to detail in this car, but also the philosophy behind it. They've adopted all the right attributes to make a really special car. And I have a feeling this car might be the real deal. Will it do over 310 miles an hour? Sort of don't care. Can they make a car with this much potential fun and drivable on the road? That's the big question, and I really am keen to find out. So I'll see you in a few months. I've got a feeling we're going to be friends. Maybe not 300. I'll do 230, 240, something like that.